Hello and welcome to another episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. As always, I'm your host, Kelby Bachman, and please give it up for the next guest on the show, Frank Beasley. So Frank is from Odin, Illinois, and wrestled at Centralia High School, where he was actually just inducted into the Centralia Sports Hall of Fame in 2024. Frank competed at Lincoln College, where he was an NJCAA All-American, before finishing his career at Bloomsburg University. After competing, Frank entered the coaching ranks with stints at Bloomsburg, Buffalo, Binghamton, and NC State before being hired as head coach at George Mason. Over the past 7 seasons, Frank has built the Patriots into a very well-respected program. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy head coach Frank Beasley. Hey, before we get started here, I wanted to turn your attention a little bit to the show notes. In the show notes, you will find 2 donation links. One is for George Mason University Wrestling. The other is to the Patriot Elite Wrestling Club, which is their RTC. And when you look at programs like George Mason, they're doing all the things in all the right ways. So a simple donation would go a long way into propelling them forward into the next chapter of their journey. And also, the 3rd annual George Mason University Wrestling Hall of Fame is Saturday, October 25th. The night before, get this, the Patriot Elite Wrestling Club will release their Be Uncommon Bourbon. And that event will be at Jack Rose Dining Salon in Washington, D.C. And there will be a tasting of that same bottle of bourbon to take home. Again, here information on this will be at www.patriotelitewrestlingclub.com. I have that in the show notes. Once again, please consider donating to programs like George Mason. It goes a long way. It shows some support. Support wrestling as a whole, not just your favorite program. Hope you enjoy the episode. In the heart of West Union, Iowa, lies a hidden gem in Euphoria Coffee. Owned by local residents Nicole and Shane Havenstreit, they source everything they can from local vendors. From hot and iced drinks, to savory breakfast burritos, to baked goods, to botany tea, and even homemade waffles, Euphoria Coffee is a place your entire family can enjoy. You can find more information at drinkeuphoria.coffee2go.com or visit their Facebook page. And we also have a special gift just for you. Next time you stop in, you can get a free baked good with a $20 purchase. Just mention the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Euphoria Coffee. Our purpose is deeper than coffee. Actually, I see your name is Franklin Beasley. Does anyone call you Franklin?
No,
No?
not really.
Do people even know your name's Franklin?
Some do.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple of people do. Not really.
Yeah.
Like I got a couple friends that will, when they're messing around, will call me Franklin. That's about it.
Oof. Okay. Yeah. Well, so you were just at Fargo. First,
Oh,
hold
yeah.
on. Let me start with this. So the other day, doing some research, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have Coach Beasley on. Let's see what he's about. Your wife took your son to the Cursed Child, right? And
Yep.
you went on a daddy-daughter date and did painting, right?
I sure did. Yeah.
Your painting wasn't too bad. Like I was actually pretty impressed with how well your painting skills were.
They make it easy to not
Do
look
they?
too bad. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was a couples painting. And so it was like everybody else there was on a date other than my daughter and I. Friday night, big Friday night date. So we
Yeah.
had daddy-daughter date, and she had a great time. And so today she was like, so when are we going back? Because they had the picture of a dog that I wanted to paint. Yeah,
So when are you going back? What's
that's a
the answer?
great question. Yeah, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. No, that's right. I just thought that was a pretty wholesome, moment that you guys shared. I don't know if you shared it or if your wife shared it, but I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Know.
no, it's My wife's way better at social media than I am. I'm not so great at posting on there. So yeah.
Yeah. So what was the picture actually of?
It was like a scenic view with trees and yeah. Like a sunset or sunrise.
Yeah. Um, and your wife went to the Cursed Child with your son. How was that? Did they enjoy that?
Yeah, yeah, he loved it. He's really into Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And so he loved it, yeah.
Yeah.
They had a good time.
Are you like so by trade not trade, but like are you now into Harry Potter since you got a
Yeah,
kid, you kind
so
of
so he's reading all the books. Him and my wife read all the books, and then as
nice.
they read a book, then we watch a movie as a family.
Ah,
My
perfect. Yeah.
daughter and I are not reading them. But yeah, they're kind of going through and doing them all. I think I don't even know which one he's on now, but he's got one or two more books left.
Right on. And how old is he? How old are both your kids, I guess?
He's 11 and she's
He's
8.
11. Man, that's pretty I mean, I feel like that's pretty advanced for an 11-year-old. Those are not short books.
Yeah,
So,
he's a pretty smart kid.
yeah. Gets that from you? Huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I'll claim responsibility for that.
Yes.
But yeah,
No, that's
no, probably
cool.
for my wife. Probably most of the good traits come from my wife.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It's fun, kind of. I mean, I don't have kids, but like I'm here with my nephew and my niece, and it's just kind of fun to watch them kind of go through the stages, of different aspects of their life. Like I think I saw them, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago, and just how different they are now in that short amount of
Oh
time, how
yeah,
much more personality they have,
goes
you
so
know.
fast.
Yeah, sad a little bit. Um, so yeah, well, cool. That was like I said, a fun kind of little moment of your life that we could see into. So anyway, so you were just at Fargo. Um, what is it like being at Fargo as a coach? I imagine is it just like mayhem? Because there's
I
just so
mean,
many kids, like, or have you got it down to a science where you're like, all right.
yeah, I mean, all the big tournaments are not all the big tournaments, but Super 32 split between the
Mhm.
two gyms. It's crazy too with all the mats. High school nationals got a ton of mats. It's
Yeah,
you get used to it. It's nothing too bad.
yeah,
You kind of figure out who you want to watch and you try to make it out to them as much as possible. It's just, sometimes somebody's on mat 2 and somebody else on mat 30. You want to watch them both, and
yeah.
it's a little tougher. But that's one of the things with Fargo is I don't get to watch a lot of kids that I haven't already kind of identified because it's so big. So I'm just kind of from mat to mat to catch the kids
Yeah.
I actually want to watch. Where at some of the, a little bit smaller tournaments, like even like an Ironman or a Beast of the East, it's like, you kind of get to sit and watch wrestling too. And then sometimes kids will just pop up and it's like, I don't know who this kid is, but he's pretty impressive. Like I need to look into this kid. And so there's a little bit less of that at Fargo.
Huh.
I think in general, just because there's like, a lot, so many matches going at the same time. It's hard to just sit and be like, oh, this kid looks really good. I mean, look who he is.
That's interesting. That's like a little tidbit, like a kind of a hidden secret there. Like, everyone wants to go to Fargo and qualify and like go wrestle in there. There's everybody, all these coaches are there. Like it's a big time. But actually, if you think about it, like you're saying, the secret might be to go to these little bit smaller
Hmm.
tournaments, like
Yeah.
participation wise, and that's where you can really show yourself,
Yeah,
and
like
because
even
people can
state
watch it.
tournaments. Yeah, like even state tournaments, it's like you sit and watch, right? Like it's
Yeah,
and that's kind of where we'll sometimes find some people we don't know about, and it's like, oh
yeah.
wow, this kid's really impressive. He's in the match with this kid or beating this kid. It's like,
Mhm.
what year is he again? Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
interesting. Where you
Um,
don't get as much of that at Fargo. Now sometimes
yeah.
it's like we're looking at somebody and they get beat by somebody else, and we're impressed by somebody else. So it
Mhm.
still happens, but I would say probably not as prevalent as some of the smaller tournaments where you kind of are just stationary watching.
Yeah. How many steps are you accumulating while you're at something like Fargo? Do you have like
A
a
lot,
lot?
yeah, but it's worth it. It's worth
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you get some downtime to just like kind of just collaborate with other coaches that are there and just like people you haven't seen in a while. Like, do you have a little downtime for yourself too?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
There's you got to make it right because it's easy to just like be like, all right, it's been a long day. I'm gonna
for
just
sure.
hit the hotel and relax. But you kind of got to carve some of that in. A good friend of mine, Zoe Blanc, who's the head coach at North Dakota State, and he had a bunch
Yeah,
of coaches over for dinner one night. He grilled out, and the second night of freestyle, I want to say there was 12 to 15 coaches there. About half of them head coaches and half of them assistant coaches, and it was a lot of fun to just kind of, collaborate with them, pick their brains, tell
hmm
stories,
hmm
whatever. But yeah, that was an awesome time. And you don't know every coach that well, and so you get to know some coaches better with things like that when you kind of get in those group settings and you kind of get to know them, the ones that you don't know that well, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah, yeah. Do you ever get? This may be a silly question, but do you ever get sick of talking wrestling? Like, do you ever like when you're wrestling all day at Fargo and you do it for multiple days, and then you go to a cookout and you're like, can I like talk about something other than wrestling for
Not
just a
really.
few? No.
No. I'm probably a little bit odd or unique in that I don't know that I ever really experienced that, like, people are like, I'm getting burnt out on wrestling practice or wrestling or
hmm
talking wrestling, and I just like I feel like I can never get enough of that.
hmm
Even when I was competing. I mean, there are certainly times where I'm like, man, my body hurts. I'm hurting,
Yeah.
but I
hmm
still like wrestling and practice and going through it. And so that's probably a little bit odd, but I guess I'm kind of obsessive.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you a little OCD? At least with wrestling?
I think everybody's got some OCD of something. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of what.
Yeah.
Uh,
But otherwise, I mean, is it stressful being out there? Like, do you at least have a little, like, is it fun too? I imagine it's got to be kind of stressful too as a coach, just trying to get around and you got a job to do. You're still there
yeah.
for a job, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you want to see everybody that you want to see, and it never
Yeah.
happens, because like I said, two kids are up at the same time, whatnot, and so yeah, I mean, I guess it could be in some ways a little bit stressful, but it's you also know that going in that like you're not going to catch every single kid, and so we're fortunate to be able to have a couple of our two of my assistants out there, Peter Pappas and Dean Heil, and
There
so
you go.
I feel like between the three of us, we got the job done, but
hmm
no, it's uh, you do your best, and I I don't get too stressed at tournaments, recruiting and stuff. Obviously, some kids that you're more invested in or have committed and whatnot, you feel some heartache when they lose or don't perform the way that they want to. But I don't get too stressed about the wins and losses or about necessarily talking to every single kid or anything.
Yeah, do you also have some fun during the tournament? I think I forget what I saw it on in Instagram or Twitter. I saw it on social media that it was like don't forget to have fun too, and it was just
Yeah,
like a few pictures of some coaches just kind of smiling and having a good time. Obviously it's you want to, like you're saying, you want them to win and you're out there for a job, but also, have a good time while you're doing it.
absolutely. You got to enjoy it. Like if you don't, it'd be miserable I think, to be there the whole time. I mean, that's one of the cool things with Fargo that you don't get at some tournaments. I mean, I think you get it with some of the big tournaments, but
Mhm.
some of the smaller tournaments you don't get as much where you interact with so many people, and you see so many people you haven't seen in a while, and
Mhm.
you just bump into so many people. You get to have those little conversations, catch up with people, see people, you give like a million hugs when you're in Fargo, or because it's like it's great to see, or handshakes or whatnot. But yeah, not a ton of in-depth conversations a lot of times because people are running around, but
Yeah.
it's always fun, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like I try to have fun just in general anyway, and joke around, and
Mhm.
whether it's like tripping a buddy of mine as he's walking by or whatever, you got to do
Yeah.
something to lighten the mood. You know, um, he wasn't out there, Michael Machiavello. So he every time we're at a tournament together, we end up in a wrestling match in like the stands or on
What?
the floor. Just as like we've been doing it since he was, I think, in college at Super 32. And like every year we have a running joke that at some point we'll get our match in at Super 32, and so we do.
Wow.
But yeah, one year at US Open we were after his tournament was over, we were wrestling around. I was trying to put him in the garbage can, and usually Allison Swab is getting pictures and sending it to my wife of us wrestling and being, maybe not the most professional in the middle of a tournament, but
Mhm.
it's always a good time.
Yeah. Could you pick like maybe someone who's a little smaller, maybe? Like, do you have to pick, you know?
Yeah, I should. I should.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I saw, I think Hayden was out there,
Hmm.
so I mean, he's someone you could probably, he's a little smaller that probably throw around a little
Yeah, he's
easier.
really tough too, though. All those guys, I'm not getting any younger. But no, I got to see Hayden out there. It's good seeing him. He was at that cookout too, and yeah,
Oh,
they're
cool.
good group of people out there.
Yeah. Does it, do you ever stop for a moment and like when you're out there and at a cookout like that and you're looking at your peers, and you're like, wow, like these are my peers, does that ever just take you like just maybe make kind of humble you a little bit like, wow, look at where I'm at, man. Like I've done it. I'm doing good. I'm doing something right in this life of mine, because you're around some pretty amazing people and you're a peer with them. So that says a lot about you.
Yeah, no, it was I kind of had that moment of clarity whenever before people started leaving. Uh, well, I think it was BJ Futrell was like, "Hey, we're gonna do a group photo," and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." The group
Yeah.
kind of get this group getting together and having a good time and um, and I had that kind of moment of like, man, this is a really cool thing. I'm really glad I came and didn't just I've had a long day. I'm just gonna kind of go through the brackets before I go to bed, like, and
Hmm.
spend a couple hours getting to socialize with them. So it was a really fun event.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
awesome.
does anything like I know we've only been talking for like, I don't know, 15 minutes or so. Does anything stress you out? You seem like a pretty easygoing guy, but I mean, at some point, is there something that really gets you like, head down, you know, nose
Yeah,
to the
I can get
grindstone?
stressed.
You can? Okay.
Certainly, yeah, for sure. I mean, during I think the things that probably stress me more than anything else are well, maybe not anything else, but like I can get stressed in recruiting when we lose somebody we think we're gonna get that we
Hmm.
really like and felt like we had a good connection with, or obviously during season when we're guys uh lose matches that we don't want them to lose, or team losses or whatnot. You have some serious heartache for some of these kids whenever they don't accomplish what they've put the work in to accomplish. And so those kind of things stress me out
Yeah.
a little bit. But I'm a pretty organized person. I like to
Ah,
have
there you
kind of
go.
like
Yeah.
a long-term plan on everything I do. So when there isn't a structure and a plan in place, I get a little stressed. But I figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that as a coach? Because that can be one of the biggest challenges is, not like obviously you're going to stress and you're going to hurt when your athletes don't get what you think they earned or worked for. So how do you handle that and sort of just keep because this guy might lose, but you got to be there for the next guy
Oh yeah.
who's wrestling next. Like how do you balance that and if you have figured it out,
Yeah.
how do you do that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, there's no easy answer there. I've definitely learned that there are times where I need to kind of step out of the gym or step back in the locker room or a second, just take a moment to myself
Hmm.
to regroup, to get myself back up and refocus for that next kid coming up or whatnot. And not, I've definitely learned not to, after a heartbreak, not to just jump into the next match if I can take a second and maybe I miss a minute of the match or whatever. But like if I can just give myself a quick reset to get myself back fired up and ready for to give uh, my attention to focus to the next kid and not dwell on it. Um, I think that's something I've learned in the last few years that I've gotten a lot better with.
Yeah, what about you? How do you reset yourself in terms of like, you know, okay, stay the course as a coach, because when you have athletes that come up short, um, like you can sometimes go down the path of, well, what am I doing wrong as a coach? Like, am I not performing? Am I not there for the kid? Like you can kind of spiral that way.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I think you can always you can have some of those feelings at times, when a kid doesn't accomplish what you want them to accomplish and whatnot. And I think if being very reflective, looking back at what we've done and having a good group of mentors too to bounce ideas off of, and people you trust that will give you the uh, things you don't want to hear. Being
Yes.
able to actually hear those things and process those things, and really having a reflection and a reevaluate yourself, and not just yourself, but the training, the preparation, the whatever it was that went into it, and how can you modify and adapt and adjust? And I think that's a really important thing for us is every year it's like, how do we improve what we've done? We have an annual plan of what we're going to do and how we're going to get there. But after each year, I need to evaluate that, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
things went well, where things didn't go well, so we can modify it and adapt and adjust for the following year. And that's what the key stakeholders, and that's, a lot of that is obviously staff. But also it's, the guys on the team, they're the ones going through it. It's
Yeah.
easy to
Mm-hmm.
say, 15 years ago I was going through it and this is how it felt, but it's like you forget how it feels, right? Like you don't, yeah, there's like, I'll give you an example. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, this will be a hard practice, but they'll be fine. And then
Mm-hmm.
they go through it and I'm like, holy cow, that was like brutal.
Mm-hmm.
It's been so long since I've done that hard of a practice myself that like I forget you don't recover that well off that,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. So I think, it's really important to get the input from the guys on the team, and the better relationship we have with them, the better open lines of communication we have with them, the better our product can be, and the better we can modify and adapt, to do it right by them. At the end of the day, the biggest thing is, in coaching is, there's all these things that you got to do and going on, whatever. But at the end of the day, our job is to develop and make them better, and every area. And that's not just wrestling and doubles and singles and high crotch, but our job is to develop them as a coach. You're supposed to take somebody from one place to another, right? That's I think the definition of a coach. And so
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, the development is the thing that we got to focus on and do. Um, but they have a lot of input on what that looks like in their feedback and in their evaluations of what went well, what didn't go well, what we need to improve on, do more of, less of, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that I'll say that's pretty impressive that you take into account. It sounds pretty seriously their input. I'm not saying, other programs don't. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but like that seems like a pretty important piece to your program is input from everybody as a
Yeah,
collective unit,
yeah,
And
yeah,
I
and
guess I can appreciate that, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think it's important. I think it's the you got to have I think they're probably the most important in that because they're the ones that are really going through it, right? And it's
Hmm.
it's about them. But there's a lot of people that have input in that process, of like that we want to evaluate and get there because they're right in the mix. Coaches might have that 30,000 foot view, but then maybe a strength coach or
Yeah.
an academic coordinator or an assistant AD might have a 50,000 foot view or whatever.
Hmm.
Or, even some of our key stakeholders with our RTC or some donors of kind of things they're seeing. It's like, um, and then obviously my mentors, of things that they notice or see that's like, hey, nobody's perfect and it's
Hmm.
never gonna be perfect, but if we can make adjustments and get better every year, then that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I guess last question about this, because I got some other things I wanna ask you about, but like this also on the one hand, it also sounds like there can be a lot of different input. So how do you sift through the input that you're getting from all these potential, what you're asking for, which is great, but how do
Mhm.
you take that information and kind of sift through it and get to like this is what I want, this is what I don't want. Like that's a lot
Yeah.
of opinions,
Yeah.
you know,
So I
which
write
again isn't a
everything
bad
down. I'm
thing.
a big note taker. I write
Okay.
everything
All
down
right.
and I review it. And
Okay.
but there's the thing is they're recurring themes, right?
Okay.
If
Yep.
one person says something, it's like, okay, great, yeah, maybe that's important. But if three, four, five people say something, it's like, wow, like there's a trend,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they're saying different things, but for the same outcome or for the same, area that there's some questions on or something. It's like there's usually reoccurring themes,
Yeah.
on good and bad both, and things that we're doing really well or things that we're not doing really well, right? And so it's like, at the end of the day, doesn't it matters how I feel about it, right?
Yeah.
But at the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, if there's a better way to do it, uh, my opinion isn't the most important, right? Because if it's something we can do better for the kids on the team, better for the program, make our program better, then it doesn't really matter if it's what I want or my idea. It's like we got to do the right thing for them.
Yeah, how far back does that, I mean, notebook go? Do you have like multiple filled up over your
I have
life?
a ton of notebooks sitting right here at my desk. Yeah. Um, and so I think that's the thing is like periodically, um, they say when you're working, you're supposed to, uh, do your job, but also work on your job or work, for the program. And so I
Mhm.
think the reflection piece of that, where I go back and look at prior years, past seasons, past years, notes of like where did things go wrong. So it's a refresher that it's not something we fix and then we forget about, or it's
Mhm.
something that we just glanced over and maybe there's not maybe it's a recurring theme that happens over years and not in one year. It's like, well, a couple people said this 2 years ago, and then nobody said anything about it last year. But then again, this year we got a couple more, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, maybe that's something I really need to look at again because I'm looking back in my notes, and it's like, wow, that actually came up more than I realized, right? And
Mhm.
so I think I think being able to go through that and try to really evaluate how we do things and trying to always find a better process or way. We do a lot of things as a system. A lot of our things, we have a plan for and have a system for, and it's like if we stay stagnant, we're gonna get the same results, right? So we got to
Right.
constantly improve that. Doesn't mean we're gonna totally throw it out and change it, completely, but is there small modifications or ways to alter it to make it better?
Yeah. Yeah. And must be doing something right, I guess,
It's
right?
coming along. It's coming along. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, I think we had a lot of good things going on here,
Hmm.
and we're building year over year, getting a little better over year. And yeah, I think things are going well.
Yeah, yeah, I would say. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about George Mason, obviously. So it's for people, who don't know, it's in Fairfax, Virginia. Okay, which is actually what, like a half hour from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
mean,
17 miles. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, what a unique area, I would say Fairfax is. Like I was looking at, I was doing just a little research on it because I needed to familiarize myself with it. It seems like a pretty historical city, I would call it.
Yeah, Fairfax
Yeah.
is awesome. I love it here. I grew up in a little farm town, Southern Illinois, middle of nowhere, and the city scared me, I think, a little bit when I was young,
Oh, for
but
sure. Yeah.
it's one of those things where like living here. I don't know how I'd ever go back somewhere else. Like, there's everything's here,
Hmm.
anything you can want to do, any kind of food, any kind of whatever it is, sporting, you name it. We have everything at our
Hmm.
access. And, we live far enough away from DC that, I'm also not cut out to live in the city of DC. Um, but,
Hmm.
uh, but we can get there and do whatever we want. But also, we have a little bit more of a rural feel and a nice little community that we're in and that kind of thing. And so I think we have the best of both worlds, but it's an awesome area. It would be incredibly challenging to ever leave this area once you come here, I think. And I think most people find that. And most of our kids, not all of our kids, but I would say, 80+% of our kids graduate and stay in this area because it's freaking awesome here. It's
Hmm.
like they're like, wow, this place is great. I always say it's basically a nice suburb of DC. And it's one of the most affluent counties in the country every year. The job market here is incredible, and our guys get really good jobs, and they come here and they like it here. They're happy
Hmm.
here. It's hard to leave. And so yeah, I love Fairfax. It's an incredible place. I've lived in a bunch of different places, and
Yeah,
nowhere
yeah.
compares. That's for sure.
Yeah. Is it difficult at times to get people to like take a trip out there and be like, "Where's that at? George Mason?" Like what? Because like that sometimes is the first reaction is the name of the school and where it's at. And if it's not a preferred destination, if you will, or
Yeah.
people don't know about it, they're like, in the trash it goes. Is
Yeah.
that kind of the hardest thing for you?
Yeah,
Maybe
we
not the
see
hardest,
that for
but
sure. We see that because I think there's a little bit of a misconception of what George Mason University is. I mean, I had a misconception of it. I thought it was a small private school just based on the names. I'd never been
yeah,
here. I didn't know
yep,
anything
yep.
about it, right? And come to find out, we're the largest public school in Virginia with 41,000 students, and it's an awesome school, a ton of nationally ranked programs, and campus is beautiful and really clean, and it's awesome here, right? And
Mhm.
I would have never have known any of those things. My just opinion of it was, it's not. whatever, Ohio State, or Penn
Right.
State, whatever,
Hmm.
and so I had a very different opinion before I came here and saw it. I was like, holy cow, this place is incredible.
Yeah, and again, it's very beautiful there. Again, like looking at that on a map and checking it out on the air, like the city is very pretty.
Yeah.
And the university, like you were saying, academically is very strong too. So I mean, it has a lot going for it. It's just trying to get people to realize that, to be like,
Yeah.
hey, this is a great opportunity for anybody, you know?
I would say when kids come here and visit, they always leave impressed with the school, I think.
Right, which is
They're
huge.
always like, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be. And it's like, you
Hmm.
try to tell them
Hmm.
what it's like, but they don't see that until they see it.
Yeah.
And they're always like, yeah, this kind of blew my expectations away. And that's a very common recurring theme that we get when kids or parents come on campus.
Yeah. Is there a way we can I like that we blow, that you blow them away, but is there a way we can get that to be the normal feeling, like a more universal excitement, like, oh man, I've heard great things about that place. Now I'm
Yeah.
excited because everyone's been saying how nice it is. So now there's already the expectation that it's nice,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess just getting the word out about it. I probably, I'm not the best on social media, so, I probably need to do a better job promoting that fact on social media and getting that out there. But yeah, no, it's a pretty incredible place, and I think hopefully word of mouth is traveling more and more as time goes on. More kids see what an incredible place this is.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about was like how much investment you've made in the program in your tenure so far. I mean, for starters, you went and got your second master's degree. Was
Mhm.
was there a reason for that, or did you just want, like, part of me is wondering if you just did that to also get ingrained with the university and be like, I'm a George Mason myself. I'm a Patriot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, there's a couple things that went into that.
Oh, okay.
So, uh, so let me start off with I never took a business class in my life.
Really?
My parents had a small business, and growing up, and my dad was an accountant, career accountant before they opened a small business. My one of my sisters got an accounting degree and then went on to law school and became a lawyer. My brother got an accounting degree and was a CPA. My other sister got a degree in finance and works in that area. And
Okay.
so for me it was like and I'm the youngest of five, and I was like, man, I never done a measure up, whatever. I'm gonna avoid business. I'm gonna proficiency out of it. I'm gonna take something else, whatever. So I
Mhm.
never took a business class in my life until and I always, once I started coaching, I was like, there's running an RTC and camps and promotion and fundraising and all these things. I'm like, there's a lot of like, I kind of see running a program as managing a small business with a small staff and, you know, uh, employees or whatever, with the wrestlers, the team, whatever. I kind of liken it to running a small business,
For
with the
sure.
budget, travel, and you name it, right? And so it's like, man, there's probably some areas that I could get a lot better in if I knew anything about business. And so for years, I was like, I'm gonna get my MBA one of these days because I like the process of school. I like school a lot, and I was like, I'm gonna do it one of these days. And so I said that for years, and
Mhm.
it probably just wasn't something I was really serious about, but I was like, I want to, but I needed pushed over the edge to do it. And my assistant coach at the time, Cam Eppert, during COVID, uh, reached out one day and was like, "Hey, I just applied to the MBA program, and you told me that if I did it, you'd do it with me." And everything shut down in COVID, and I was
Yeah.
like, "All right, well, I guess I'm applying tonight then." So I applied, and we kind of did it together, and he really pushed me to do it, and I'm very thankful to him that he did that. But yeah, he pushed me over the edge and got me to jump in head first, and it was really good. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It was pretty cool to network with some of the incredible people I got to meet in the program, my
For sure.
classes, and some of the professors. I mean, it was pretty incredible, and I think it helped me a lot. I think it was really beneficial. In kind of my everyday life, outside the wrestling room, and
Mhm.
so I really glad I did it. And I think it was super beneficial, but it was one of those things is like COVID shut everything down. There's not a lot going on. I told him I'd do it if he did it, and he did it. So I jumped in and did it. And so, yeah, I had a master's in education already and did the MBA.
Wow. And I mean, to rub elbows with some of those people who are literally like they probably don't know anything about so it was probably nice to just get away from. I mean, maybe I should ask that. Was it nice to get away from wrestling and see things through a business lens and just
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, it's very different,
yeah,
it's
for
just,
sure.
different perspective, different outlook, different, and then it's like, in my head, I'm trying to figure out how do I modify this to better benefit our team.
Bingo.
Everything we did was
Mm-hmm.
like, how am I going to use this to better our program, to better our RTC, better our, whatever it is. And so that was kind of the lens I went into it in is like, this will make me a better coach if I do this. And, how do I, do this now and apply this to coaching because
Yeah.
a lot of the stuff was like this is what you do for this and it's like well I don't really do that but I do see a use for that here inside the coaching realm
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
so
just like they can think about things like a business that you probably wouldn't think about, and just like in any successful business, like because I'm fascinated by this because I always when I watch like I don't know if you watch like Quarterback on Netflix or Hard Knocks or whatever, about NFL stuff. Like I always am fascinated with how it is like running a business with just a bunch of employees. Is
yeah
essentially what an
yeah
NFL
yeah
team is, and that's exactly what you're doing. It's just it it's a business with some employees. Just your athletes are kind of your employees,
yeah
So, um, yeah, to get different perspective, a completely different perspective, but one that you can still mold into your program is it's pretty cool and pretty unique. Fascinating to me. I don't
yeah
know.
and some of the people I was in classes with and you'd be doing these projects with them or whatever
Yeah,
and it's like you hear about what they do and I'm like holy cow these people are like really impressive like
exactly. Yeah.
like they're killing it in this world over here that like they're really impressive people and I made some good friendships with some of those people and but yeah I was super impressed with the people I had in my classes. I was just like
Mhm.
wow that person's got something figured out they're killing it yeah
And did your colleague Kepper, did he right? Did I pronounce his name
yeah
right?
effort
Kepper?
Cam effort
Ep
yeah
Eppert, Cam Eppert, sorry. Did he graduate and do it with you? He
yeah
did
he
it?
did
Oh,
yeah
good for
no
him. Good
yeah
for
we
him.
weren't in all the same classes or anything but
Okay.
we did it the same kind of time frame and we had some overlap with some classes but yeah no he did awesome and he moved on from coaching and into the business realm
Yeah.
which is kind of a longer term plan for him and is doing great I mean he was an incredible coach and did an awesome job here and helped lay the foundation for what we're building for sure but then he got his MBA and moved on into a different setting and is
Mhm.
doing awesome. He's killing it. I talked to him a lot. He's still involved and yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, it probably was really beneficial also to have somebody on your staff. I know he's not on there right now or anymore, but to bounce ideas on like, oh my gosh, do you think this would be good for our program? Like it would have
Yeah,
been
yeah,
that would have been really nice to collaborate with someone as you're actually going through the classes. Yeah. Very beneficial.
yeah. Absolutely. It was cool.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. I'd highly recommend it. I mean, obviously it's like, there's some sacrifice, you got to sacrifice some time or
Hmm.
some sleep to make it happen, but because you got to do everything else still, but
Hmm.
yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah, that was gonna be the last thing I was gonna say was it kind of also puts you back in the mode of a college student in a way to like
Mhm.
almost refresh your memory of how it is like to be the athletes you're coaching. Like, oh, I
Yeah.
forgot how much time homework takes sometimes. Like, I forgot how little, how much less sleep I'm getting. Like, to be a college athlete, kind of gave you a little taste of the medicine again.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. I one of the things I did was I'd be like, "All right, guys, this is my GP. I got a 4.0 this semester.
Oh,
Who's
no
not beating
way.
me?"
Did you really?
So Cam and I would kind of challenge the team each semester because we do so many
Right.
credits each semester,
Yeah.
whatever, not a ton. Um, we drug it out over several years so
Mhm.
that we weren't too distracted. But it was like, "All right, who's gonna beat us this semester? Can anybody match us?"
Did, did anybody?
I don't think so.
Wow.
There
Good
were guys
job.
who did well, but
Yeah.
I think we had a little bit lighter load of classes than they did, and we made sure we were on top of it.
No, that's fun. That's awesome. The camaraderie sounds like a big just a big piece to the culture there at George Mason that is really refreshing to hear, especially like right now in real time, like just experiencing it, or not literally, but hearing it is fun. Like I'm having a
Yeah.
good time.
It's
I'm not even
important. You
on
got
the
to
team.
enjoy, you got to enjoy every day. You got to enjoy the people you're around. And, I say it in recruiting. I'm like, it doesn't matter how good the school is or how pretty it is or
Yeah,
how good the team is, whatever. Like, if you're not happy, it doesn't really matter. Like,
yeah,
you got to enjoy your daily life to be successful. And so I think it's really important to have good quality people that I want to be around every day.
yeah. You mentioned this. I'm going to rewind here. The life of Frank Beasley. You said you're from a small farming town in Illinois. It's Odin, correct? Odin, Illinois.
Odin, Illinois. Yeah.
Odin, Illinois. Population, the last census I looked it up, 935.
Yeah. Yeah.
Small
Big
town.
town, big, booming, bustling, got everything you need.
How
No
did you like?
stoplights. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. So I grew up in a small community, Monona, Iowa. I graduated from Monticello, but Monona was it's probably 1,500, so
Yeah.
it's even bigger than Odin,
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
and yeah, no
You know what
stoplights.
that's like. Yeah.
Yeah. What was it like growing up, in Odin, Illinois?
It was great.
Yeah.
I grew up on a small corn and bean farm, and my parents were extremely hardworking people. Like I said, they owned a small business, and we had the farm, and um,
Wow.
my parents were valued work ethic very highly, and
Yeah.
my parents worked extremely hard, and I to this day I've never met anybody that could hold a candle to my mom on work ethic. And I've been
Wow.
around some of the greatest wrestlers,
Hmm.
in the country and stuff. And, in wrestling, we value work ethic a lot. And yeah, I haven't met anybody that could hold a candle to her in just the work ethic and side of things. But yeah, so grew up, learned to work hard, and learned to put my head down and grind and do what I need to do to be successful.
Yeah.
But had a great time. Ended up going to Centralia High School. Odin didn't have a wrestling program, so I had to go to so my sister became my guardian going into high school, so I could go to a high school that had wrestling. And so I went to
Wow.
Centralia High School, and my parents were older. And yeah, so she became my guardian. I lived with her, and um, it wasn't that far away. She lived about half hour from my parents, and
Still, I mean,
the
that's
school was about 15, halfway between the two, right? And so yeah, no, it was kind of different. Needing to do that to be able to go somewhere that had wrestling, and had a great experience there. Had a high school coach that cared a lot, and you know, came from didn't grow up wrestling or anything. He started coaching and learned the sport after he started
wow.
coaching. Started the program at the high school, coached there for 40 years, and you know, um,
You
maybe
serious?
wasn't the
Wow.
greatest technician of all time or anything, but was
Hmm.
somebody I learned more about coaching from than anybody. He made people better. As people, I mean, he turned kids into men, saved and changed so many lives. It's crazy. But he's one of those guys that you could probably give him anything, he can coach it, and he would figure it out. But uh, but yeah, like I said, I learned about a lot about how to treat people and how to coach from him.
Wow. So you moved from Odin to Centralia. Was that difficult then? I mean, at that age, you're not living with your parents, and you're used to that, and it's everyone else is going home to their, I'm going home to my
Yep.
parents, and I mean, did that become difficult at all? I mean,
I
when I
mean,
moved, I did that for a little bit. I lived with like my it was like my great aunt and great uncle for like a couple months, and it was different.
yeah,
It was different.
yeah. Yeah, no, I was really close to my sister and still am, and you know, um, thanks to her and her husband, they made it
Mhm.
possible for me to continue to wrestle at that point,
Yeah.
right? And get a better, education at Centralia with, higher level classes and stuff. And so,
Hmm.
there's a lot that went into it, but yeah, I mean, I, I guess it was challenge. I was so excited for it. I was
Really?
ready.
Yeah.
I was like,
Right
look,
on.
I was so narrow-minded, focused on like, to my parents is like a better opportunity educationally.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like wrestling, right? And um, wrestling provided me a lot of opportunity and still does. And, obviously really changed my life. I went from having bad grades as, a kid. I found wrestling. My dad kind of tricked me into doing wrestling. And once I found it, my parents were like, all right, well, you got to get good grades if you want to keep doing it. And, they used wrestling to, transform my academics and totally, took off from there. So yeah, it honestly wasn't that challenging just because my sister and husband were so great to me, and it's not like super far from home.
Yeah.
But by that point I was spending a lot of time at wrestling camps over the summer, and wasn't home a ton. And honestly, growing up working on a farm was not going to be my future. I knew that from an early age. I split enough wood and did enough chores that I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. But yeah, no, it wasn't that hard, honestly. The people
Yeah.
around me, my parents and my family made it possible and made it enjoyable.
Yeah. So when did wrestling become even a part of your life? First off, you said your father tricked you into it. What does that mean? How's he
Yeah,
trick you into that?
so I was a pretty undisciplined, kind of fat kid that didn't get good grades
Hi,
and
Kelby.
didn't
Yep,
have
that's me.
a passion, and I watched professional wrestling, as a little kid,
Hmm.
and so at 10 years old, there was like something in the newspaper about the local wrestling team. My dad knew what it was, right?
Uh-huh.
But I had no idea of what amateur wrestling was, and so he was like, "Look, you like pro wrestling, if you want to do that, you have to do this first." And so he like tricked me
Wow.
into going, and
Yeah.
it was late January of 1995. I was in fifth grade, and and so like there was like a month left of season, and I showed up, and the first practice I was like, oh my God, I love this. This is incredible. This is what I want to do the
Wow.
rest of my life. And and from that point forward, I was just like, I was in. Obviously, got deeper in as I went on, but started doing like camps that summer, and started doing a lot of camps in the coming years, and my whole
Wow.
summers were consumed by it, and yeah, I was just like I said, obsessed with wrestling almost from a pretty early age, and I was terrible for a long time. I mean, I was awful.
Hmm.
I like I said, I started in fifth grade, and I didn't have a winning record until I was a sophomore in high school. I was not very good, but like I loved it, and I worked hard, and eventually started figuring it out a little bit.
Why, how did you love it? Like that, a lot of times people fall, they stray away from wrestling because they get their butt kicked all the time. They're not
Mhm.
winning.
Yeah,
That's one of the biggest reasons. Like we all want to win, right?
yeah.
We like getting our hand raised. So what made you kind of just stick around? What was it about it that you loved so much to keep coming
That's a
back?
great question. I'm not exactly sure if I know the answer to that. I
Yeah.
just like from the first practice, I was like, this is really cool, and I
Hmm.
really like it, and I really like the, you can never know everything in wrestling. You can never
Yeah.
like have everything. Like there's always opportunity to improve and learn and different ways to do things, and there's no like you have to do it this way every time. That
Hmm.
it's like some creativity to it, and that I also really like the like I'm not good, but if I work hard, I can have an opportunity to be good. And
Yeah.
there's no guarantee there. I say to the team all the time, you can do everything right and not get what you want, right? But if you don't, you won't you get what you
Yeah.
want. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I felt like the harder I worked, the better I got. And I felt like I saw improvements. Maybe I didn't with my record so much and with wins, but I felt like I was getting better in areas, and I could feel kind of a change in myself. Like wrestling became important. I All of a sudden I became a good student. All of a sudden
Hmm.
I became more disciplined in my daily life. Like it played such a factor in my development in kind of all areas, that it really transformed me. And so I don't know why I loved it so much right away, but I did,
Yeah.
and it's just compelled me ever since, and I still love it. Like the best, other than being with my family, best part of the day is going in the wrestling room, right? Like
Hmm.
whenever we have meetings or whatever, and I can't be in the room, like that hurts me. Like I hate it. Like being away at Fargo, I love being at Fargo, but like I was not in practice for a couple days there with the team, and
Hmm.
like practice ends, I'm calling who's running it, like, hey, how we practice, tell me about it. Like I feel like I need to check in and make sure that everything's good. But yeah, no, I fell in love with it right away and just liked the process. And I think I was really fortunate. I had people who really cared as coaches that cared about me and gave me opportunities. And I've been very fortunate with good coaches.
Yeah, how did anyone else in your family wrestle? I
Not
mean,
really. No,
no?
I had a cousin that wrestled, a cousin Jamie that wrestled. He was, man, I don't even know, 20 plus years older than me. So like I didn't even
Oh,
know
okay,
he
wow.
wrestled
Okay,
until
yeah.
after I started wrestling.
Yeah.
But he was also my hero as a kid too, and
Oh,
and
okay.
an idol of mine. But I didn't even know he wrestled until after I started wrestling. But yeah, he's the only one. He wrestled in high school. But he was the only one that I had that wrestled, and I have a cousin now that wrestles, and yeah.
Wow. Uh, So it was just by total chance that your dad was like, "You
He
like
he knew it
wrestling?"
would install some discipline in me and that it would help
Okay.
me with some things because, like I said, my parents were extremely hard workers and they knew the work
Right.
ethic came with wrestling and stuff. And, they could put me on task and they'd get me to work hard, but, I didn't have a passion. I didn't have something that I was driven for. And,
Hmm.
they could get me to work hard and do something, but, they wanted me to kind of develop those qualities, right? And so he knew
Right.
that wrestling would be really good for me. And I don't think they thought I'd take off the way it did and that I'd, spend my life in it.
Hmm.
But yeah, he saw an opportunity for me to grow and develop as a person and jump to the chance. So, credit to him.
Yeah. What about other sports? Did you dabble in anything else?
Yeah, so in my town, obviously small town, we had baseball and basketball, and that
Yep.
was it. And I never liked basketball so much. So I played baseball, growing up and then somewhere in junior high, stopped playing baseball just to wrestle year round.
Hmm.
I pretty much wrestled year round in junior high on. Uh, I ran cross country a little bit in high school. I
Hey,
got a
there we
stress
go.
fracture and it took me out a little bit of season. I was like, all right, I'm not running anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just run on
Okay,
my
good.
own. But yeah, no, I pretty much was year-round wrestling from junior high on.
Wow. And year-round wrestling, where'd you go? Or like club wise, it's funny. I talk to a lot of people who are like our age. I'm 33, but and older, and there were no clubs,
Yeah.
or it was just like a couple dads with their kids in a barn or something. Like where did you go to practice or train or get rides to these tournaments that you're
Mhm.
going to wrestling year round? Like what was that like?
Yeah. So, um, yeah, my parents were just troopers and would take me to a tournament. Anytime
Wow,
we could
okay.
get to a tournament, they would drive me. We didn't come from a whole lot or anything, so we never. I don't know if we ever when I was going through high school, got a hotel the night before. We would leave at midnight and drive 6 hours, weigh in and wrestle and drive back. Like I don't think when I was in high school and my parents took me to something that like obviously during season when we had, multiple day events stuff, but and all the off season stuff, we never got a hotel. It was always we're gonna drive there, whatever time we gotta leave,
Hmm.
we leave, we drive there. Kind of the
Wow.
deal was my mom would drive to wherever it was, and then I'd wrestle and I would drive back, and that
And
was
you
kind
would
of like
drive
the
back.
setup. Yeah. Once I turned 16,
Right.
before I was
Wow.
16, they would do it for me. They'd do the whole thing. Once I turned 16, it was like, all right, if it's within a couple hours, whatever, you can do it.
Yeah.
But if it was 5, 6 plus hours, then my mom would suck it up and drive there and make it possible for me. Um, and my siblings some too, but my mom was the one that did most of the tournaments with me. Um, and so we did a lot of tournaments. So I did a lot of tournaments. I would get 100 plus matches in the off season. I would double
Wow.
bracket. I would do a tournament Saturday and Sunday. I try to find a tournament that was drivable that I could go to Saturday, come back home, go to Sunday or something, because we didn't really, stay the night. I had a couple friends from other teams that would go to some tournaments, and anytime I could hitch a ride with them, a lot of times then I'd get to stay in a hotel because they would stay in a hotel
Hey,
and,
there
and
we
it would
go.
be nice. But yeah, we traveled around. Probably I would say most of the tournaments were within 6, 7 hours. we kind of had, anything we could find, we'd go to. Sometimes I get good matches, sometimes I wouldn't. I'd wrestle as many divisions as I could, or multiple weight classes they let me, whatever they'd let me do, I would wrestle. Um, and so the clubs weren't, super popular. My high school didn't really have anything going on in the off season. My coach would open up the room and would let me use the room. And so basically, I just structure my own workout, and I'd get somebody to come in with me, a day or two a week. And then there's another high school, Mount Vernon High School, that at times had a day or two a week they'd practice in the off season, and there'd be a handful of kids or whatever, and I'd go over there. And when I turned 16, my parents got me a car, and it was like, all right, here's the keys. You're on your own now. Like, you're driving.
Wow.
And so once I turned, well, let me backtrack. There was a school in St. Louis that was probably a place that made a lot of things possible for me. Whitfield High School, and Charlie Sherritts was the head coach. He's the head coach at Maryville University now. They had 2 national champs, Division II this year. The only school with 2 national champs, and he's an incredible coach. And he basically just kind of adopted me to his team in the off season, and would take me to any tournament that his team was going to. And anytime I could go over there, I'd stay with him, and I'd practice with his team for a week or so at a time. And just, I'm not sure why he did it, because he got no value out of it. Like, didn't do anything for him. But he made it possible for me. He'd take me to camps with his team. He would take me to tournaments. I mean, I remember he took me to a tournament at, in like Nebraska. He would take me to camps all over the country. Like, he would let me crash at his house, feed me, and let me train with his team for their camps. Like, it was crazy. But just provide me these opportunities that I would have never have gotten, and really opened my eyes to the world of wrestling. And he was a Division I All-American in Missouri. And then, legendary coach in Missouri, won a ton of state titles at Whitfield, and now is, the head coach, like I said, at Maryville, and doing a great job there. An incredible coach. And I guess, now that I reflect on it, I wonder why he did all that for me. But he's just a great guy, right? And just for whatever reason, I guess maybe as a good workout partner for his guys. I don't know, but I would go there a lot, and my dad or my mom would drive me out there, and it's like an hour and a half to get there, and I'd practice. And then, as I got to know them a little bit, like I said, he let me just stay with them for a period of time here and there. Wow. To, they do whatever. And so he really kind of adopted me. And then when I turned 16, they gave me keys and were like, here you go. Like, you do all your own practices, these longer tournaments. Like, my mom would still go with me, but, and so then at that point I would go over to SIU Edwardsville, to train, which is a Division I team now. At the time, they were Division II. And I'll never forget, there were, I want to say they were 0-17 Division II. They were probably the worst Division II team in the country at the time. Like, they were really bad. I was, not great as, sophomore, junior in high school. And I was like, man, I'm beating their guys, But the coach there, allowed me to come in and work out with his team a lot, and so a couple days a week I'd go out there and work out with his guys. And what I found at the time, like I said, they were pretty bad at the time. A lot of his guys weren't training in the off season, and he would, they would have practice and nobody would be there, and he would call around to find somebody to work out with me, because he's like, this freaking kid showed up, like, he just drove an hour and a half to get here. Need you to come in and work out with him, right? Or he would do it. He would work out with me. And Booker Binford, who was a couple-time D2 national champ and great guy. But yeah, like I said, I was just really fortunate. Charlie and Booker and all these guys just kind of, they took me in, to no benefit of their own. I think that's kind of some of just the quality of good people in wrestling that made things possible for me. The coach at Marion High School, Kip Christoph's, couple-time national champ, D2 as well. Same kind of thing, is like, he had a handful of guys who were serious about wrestling and would travel around. They're an hour away from us. And he would take me to some camps with him. He would let me train with his guys some. Like, it was just, again, of no benefit to him. But they were willing to do that for me. And, forever grateful that they made those things possible. But yeah, I for whatever reason they did. And, I think it's just good people that I was lucky to find.
Wow.
But yeah, I drove a lot. I put a lot of miles on the car. I mean, once I turned 16, I was hitting the road. I'd drive to, Colorado to Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, you name it, I'd go there for camp.
Oh
I'd
my
go there to go
gosh.
wrestle. And yeah, I had a little two-seater car, and I'd pack a bag and I'd travel around and
What
I'd
kind of car
do
was it?
Mazda Miata. It was like an old, Mazda Miata, little two-seater cheap car. But yeah, it got the
Wow.
job done. And yeah, I do as many weeks of camp as I could afford. I worked part-time, and my parents helped me pay for some of the camps and stuff too. But I'd do as many camps as I could. I'd do as many tournaments as I could, and um, do whatever I could to make things work.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. Like the independence that you had, the confidence, part of that is just like being able to be like, all right, I'm gonna go do this and just be confident with it. The did you get lost at all?
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I
but
figured.
like the confidence, all that, like it wasn't even a thought. Is like, well, I can't get a workout in unless I drive, an hour and a half there and back. Like, I need to get better today. Like,
Mhm.
I'll figure it out. And so, yeah, yeah, I mean, probably wasn't always the smartest thing, but I would let it rip. I would drive as, like I'm gonna be late to practice, leaving school on time. So like
Mhm.
I'm gonna change as I'm driving. I'm gonna drive as fast as I can to get there, and like hope I don't get pulled over. Like I did some dumb things. I was a dumb kid.
Mhm.
But I figured it out. I made it work, and we get there, and do everything I could, and was just always willing to help, and whatever. If they needed the mats mopped, I was first one to mop the mats, because like they provide these opportunities that I wasn't getting somewhere else. Or
Mhm.
I remember I used to ref at a lot of the tournaments, because they'd be like, hey, let me double in or whatever. And sometimes the tournament directors would, and sometimes they wouldn't. And then like the more I got to know them, and like, hey, I'll, like, whatever, ref, I'm not refing if
Wow.
wrestling, if you let me double in or whatever. And so
Mhm.
I just, I found a way. I found a way to compete. I found a way to train, and was, again, just super fortunate that people allowed me to the opportunities. But yeah, and then getting lost. Yeah. So when my parents gave me a car, they gave me that and an atlas book. And I got
There it
really
is.
freaking
Yep.
good at knowing where to go. It was before MapQuest, so I'm dating myself a little bit.
Yes.
Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I
Mhm.
had an atlas book of the 50 states, and I would map it out the day before I left, and I'd know what time I need to leave, and I was really good with directions. Now I'm terrible with directions. I haven't, I
What?
rely on GPS now. But yeah, I would map out where I was going. I'd figure it out, and then I remember when MapQuest became a thing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is like the greatest invention of all time. I can print it off. I can set my
Mhm.
odometer to tell me, in 50 miles, I know I got to start paying attention.
Mhm.
And so then eventually GPSs. But yeah, no, I got really good with that Atlas book, and could get anywhere, could do whatever.
That's awesome. How'd you figure out how long it was going to take you to get somewhere? I mean,
Uh, I would always budget extra time. I would just,
okay.
you measure out, in the Atlas book,
Yeah,
you
I
have
was
the
gonna
little
say
ruler of 50 miles
Right.
is this, and you measure it out. And it's like, well, this is all interstate, it should take this long. I
Wow.
budget an extra hour or whatever. Yeah. Fortunately, I never missed anything or missed a weigh in or anything. I always made it in time.
That's impressive.
But yeah, you figure it out, right? Like you have no choice. Like if you want to get better, and you don't have anybody kind of around you that's really training full time, you figure it out.
Hmm. Yeah.
And if I couldn't get a workout in with somebody on the mat, I obviously preferred that. I'd run, or I'd lift, or I'd do whatever. Like I was ultra driven, and still wasn't very good, but I figured it out.
Yeah, when did you start to maybe turn the corner though of finding some success or some form of success, because you're putting in all this time. I guess let me ask you this first. Did you ever get discouraged not having success even though you're putting in that much time? I mean, that is a
Yeah.
lot of effort and energy
Yeah,
and
I mean,
time
certainly
and money.
there's discouragement, but in my head it was always like, well, obviously there's another level. Obviously, I have to do more than I'm doing.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm not doing enough tournaments. I'm not doing enough weeks of camp. I'm not doing whatever. I'm not working out enough. Like, and so yeah, I mean, I had a heartbreak in the state tournament, and I remember, like, bawling, and my assistant coach was like, you have the intangibles. You have like what it takes. you will be there. It's just gonna take time, and I remember just like bawling my eyes out, like, man, I worked so hard to, win a state title, whatever, and it didn't happen. And I so yeah, there were certainly some frustrating times, in college when I didn't get what I want, whatever, some discouraging times, but there's always like, well, then I got to do more, I got to get better, like at the end of the day, like it's a marathon, not a sprint, and like I can do more to get better. And that probably led to me overtraining and probably,
Yeah.
not doing as well as I could have at times in college, because it was always, I still had that mentality of like, well, I need to do more. I need to do more. And, didn't let my body rest and recover. So I probably is something I learned after college that like I went too far that way. But yeah, I had some discouragements, but it was never something that discouraged me of like, I don't want to do this. It was just like
Right.
more of confirmation that I needed to do it. I needed to do it more. I needed to do more. I needed to up my workload. I needed to work harder. And yeah, and so I would say, my first kind of time of really turning the corner was, I would say I had a couple big jumps. From eighth grade to my freshman year, I felt like I made a pretty big jump, going from not qualifying for the eighth grade state tournament to like, being a varsity starter and like going 500 or whatever as a freshman. I felt like that was a pretty good jump year for me. And then my sophomore year, I had a big jump from freshman to sophomore year. I thought those were like my two kind of big jump years, and my formative years. And then, college, I felt like I got, a lot better after my freshman year going into my sophomore year.
Yeah. When did like college wrestling become a part of the picture and like something you were striving for, and then yeah, basically how did you wind up at Lincoln College?
Yeah. I'd say probably, right away, I was like, I'm gonna do this. I want to,
Yeah.
From early on, I want to come back and coach my junior high team, right? Like that's what I'm gonna do when I was in junior high. And then I went to high school and I was like, I'm gonna come back and coach this team, But somewhere in high school, I realized I needed to go to college to, take the next step. So I was pretty laser focused on that. That's what I need to do, is go to college and wrestle and, get a degree and figure it out so I can coach. And so when I went to college, it was, I want to coach. And at that time, I thought I wanted to be a high school coach. And I went to college, and I'm like, oh, I want to be a college coach.
Yeah.
And so my fallback plan was the education, English ed. So I did English education. I changed my major a few times, but I ended up on English education. And, thankfully, I've never had to utilize that. Things have worked out for me. But yeah, and then, going to Lincoln. So it's kind of a weird story, I guess. I from probably my sophomore year, starting my sophomore year, maybe my freshman year, I made a list of schools. I made a list of like all the colleges I'd be interested in, and then like I think I may have done it my freshman year, but definitely my sophomore year, I made this big list. And I went through and I looked at all the websites and the rosters, and I was like, I eliminated some. And then my junior year, I did that. Like, I was like, yeah, this list isn't right. Like, I'm going to redo it. And I was like, I want this location and I want like whatever coaches with these credentials. And then like, I kept changing because I was, a young, dumb kid that didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. But I kept changing what I wanted to do and how I was going to pick a college. And so I was like, I'm going to have this figured out really early. And, my sophomore year, I was like, I'll probably have it figured out by the end of the year, like, not that anybody was recruiting me or anything. It was just like in my head, like, I'm going to have a plan. I like to plan. I want to have a plan. And so then I do it my junior year. And then I'm in my senior year and I'm like, I got to start from scratch. Like, none of that makes sense of the stuff I was doing before. And so, I really didn't know. I didn't have a whole lot of guidance on the whole recruiting process thing, and it's whatever. And so I was just like, I was always like, well, I'm gonna win this, and then I'm gonna get recruited by these schools or whatever. And so I did that date just kept moving back, and so I get through my senior year and still haven't decided where I'm going, which, now that's, pretty uncommon, but, back then, it wasn't that uncommon. And so, and then it's like, well, I got this tournament. Okay. Well, and then it was like, all right, well, I'm going to Fargo. Right. Or, first I had AU Nationals in Louisiana or something. And the training camp for that was at Lincoln College, which is a couple hours from home. And my assistant coach played baseball, a high school coach played baseball at Lincoln College, and was like, the coach is the greatest guy. This is where you should go. And I was like, I'm a freaking good student. Like I'm kind of looking at like Ivy League type schools now. It's
Right.
too late to get into those, but like I'm not going to a junior college. Like
Right.
there's no way. I put all this time and energy in. Like I'm going to a good school. And he's like, you should really go there, and then you'll have time to like figure out, develop, and go somewhere else. Um, and so we had a training camp there, and I really liked the coach, Dave Clem, huge mentor to this day, awesome guy. But he invested time and energy into me there, and the whole time I'm like, yeah, I wish he was at a different school. I'm not going to a junior college, right?
Yeah.
And so, I'd leave there, whatever, and I'm like, there's no way I'd go there, but like I really think he would care about me and make me better, whatever. And so then I go to Fargo and still don't know, this time, and my senior year, after my senior year. And so I actually paid some deposits at a handful of schools, like, $100 deposit or whatever, because like I was like, I don't know where I'm going, but these are like my top 3 or 4 schools. And I had a little bit of a problem with a commitment at that point of like, man, I'm going to commit somewhere for 4 to 5 years. Like that's a big
Yeah.
deal. I don't know if I can do that. And so that scared me, actually. I was just like, I can't commit to anything that long. Like, and so I go to Fargo, and I had a good Fargo, and crazy enough, my recruiting picked up after Fargo. So I got
Okay.
some pretty good opportunities after Fargo, with some Division I schools and stuff, that I didn't previous have, and I had some other Division I schools I was recruited by, but like, whatever in my head is Division I or bust. And get through Fargo. I had one Division I school that made me a really good offer, and nobody else was making me the kind of offer they made me, and I didn't take it. I went to Lincoln, and
Wow.
basically I was just like, I'm gonna be better, and that opportunity will be there if I want it to be there. But like I'm gonna go there and develop. This guy has put the time and energy into me, and like he has a
Mhm.
vision for me. And so I kind of, as a cop out, went there, um, and paid more to go to a private junior college than I did at the 5 Division I schools that I was looking at. Um, and it is what it is. I paid more money to go there, which is crazy, in
Right.
retrospect. And now, maybe if I had different guidance, that wouldn't have happened. But
Mhm.
my parents were like, "Look, we'll figure it out, and you'll take out loans and whatever, you'll pay it back." And so I took out a bunch of loans and paid more to go there than any of the Division I or II schools that I was looking at. Um, and on like the smallest amount of scholarship, right? And so
Wow.
so I go there, have great experience, and really glad I went there.
Yeah.
Um, and made the best friends that I have, to this day there, whatever. Like it changed my trajectory, my life. Um, and then when I was leaving there, initially I was like, all right, I really want to go to an Ivy League school. Like I went to a junior college, and
Yeah.
and then I realized, well, you can't actually go to an Ivy League school from a junior college. Like there's that's not really a thing, right? Like you got to kind of go right in. A lot of them don't accept transfers. And so I'm going through the process, and I'm looking at different places, and um, John Stutzman was at Bloomsburg as the assistant coach at the time, and he was the assistant coach at Northern Illinois when I was coming out of high school, and he recruited me at
Mhm.
Northern, and I didn't like Northern and didn't want to go there, but I liked him a lot, and so he's recruiting me, and his brother-in-law was on my team at Lincoln, and uh,
Oh,
and
okay.
so he recruits me again, and I go out on a visit and whatnot, and but the thing that stood out to me is he used to call me at like 6 a.m., like a morning lift or morning workout or whatever. And he'd be like, "Are you up training? Like, if not, you need to get up and train." And I was like, "Man, this guy's crazy enough that like he could actually get me pretty good." And so one thing leads to another. And I of the scholarship offers I had, I took the small scholarship offer I had at that point and went to Bloomsburg, and still paid less than I paid at a junior college in state
Jeez.
to go there out of state. But yeah, so really hit it off with him. He was the assistant coach first year and then became the head coach the second year. And so I ended up at Bloomsburg. And, Bloomsburg, of all those years when I was in Lincoln, of all those years in high school, all those lists I made never made it on the list, neither one of them.
Wow.
It was like, I was like, I don't want to go to Pennsylvania. I don't want to go to, and so just kind of the way it happened, it really came down to the connection with the coaches, that
Yeah.
people I believed in and thought would care about me and do. And I have a great relationship with those guys to this day. And, they did a lot for me and, owe them a lot of credit. But that's kind of how it was like the last place I was going to go, both of them. And one thing led to another and it all kind of worked out.
Yeah. I love the story though, as a whole of, one, just keeping your options open, never really shutting the door on any opportunity, just make sure that, because you just never know. I mean, like you were saying, you had no intention of going to Lincoln College,
Yeah,
none.
yeah.
But you never say never really, and here you wind up, and it ended up being a great
Yeah.
fit for you.
Yeah, it's
Um,
crazy how that works out.
yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, I think the reality was I hadn't found the right fit, right? Like I
Hmm.
visited a bunch of places both times and I just didn't feel right about it,
Hmm.
and you have that gut feeling and it could be bad or good that you make a 18-year-old kid or a 20-year-old kid, whatever, is making a decision on a gut feeling, but like,
Hmm.
you have that feeling of like this is the place or not. And that's what I made the decision on. And I hadn't before Lincoln, I hadn't found anywhere that I felt that way about. I was like, oh, this is really nice, I like this, whatever, but like I just don't see myself being there, right? And then at Lincoln I was like, look, whatever, I can do it and be
Hmm.
there. And now Lincoln's closed. They shut down as a
Right.
school
Yeah.
and stuff, but which is crazy and sad.
Yeah.
um but and then same thing with Bloomsburg. I was just like, on my visit, it was just like, this is where I need to be. Like I
Hmm.
just feel it. This is where I need to be. And one thing led to another.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was just like, took the smallest offer I had both times
Yeah.
and paid more and whatever. And I'm happy I did. It's not
Yeah.
always about the money or about the school or whatever. It's where are you gonna be happy? Like we
Right.
were talking about that at the beginning. Like if you're not
Yep.
happy, you can't be successful. And obviously, I wish I was more successful, but I wouldn't change anything at this point. Very happy with the way things worked out for me.
Yeah. And you had some success. I mean, was it pretty validating to be an All-American at Lincoln College? I mean, after all that training and effort, and I know we don't necessarily, I mean, you don't want to say you do it for the accolades. It's nice to have them, but like in your instance or in your case, like you put so much into the sport that pretty validating to get something out of it.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. And it meant a lot to me at the time. Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, it did. But yeah, and then I was surrounded by good people, right? Like,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was validating. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like that's not the things that really stick out and that you
Right.
remember as winning. It's like
Yeah.
you remember the fun stuff, you remember the daily grind, the battles in the room,
Mhm.
the horseplay in the dorm, whatever. You remember all the fun stuff, and yeah.
The horseplay in the dorm. What were you doing?
Just
What are you doing in the dorms there?
no, nothing too bad. I did start a food fight in our cafeteria my was it my sophomore year, and
What?
it became a huge mess. I actually got suspended for a week. So I started this food fight with my team, and one thing led to another. The whole place was a mess. Everybody got involved, and so at Lincoln, I was the student senate president both years, and I was the only person to be like as a freshman, and then obviously for both years, and so that was just like something different. But like I felt like because I kind of started it, like they wanted to make an example of me because like
Hmm.
of who I was there. Yeah,
What
and
started that? Like what happened?
you know how it is. You dick around your teammates. One thing leads to another. You're talking trash, and then you
Yeah.
start throwing some food.
What kind of food
And
was it?
it started with soft serve ice cream, but then it was bad. It was bad. They put me on trash detail for a week. I
Wow.
was suspended from the team for a week, and I probably shouldn't be telling this online, but It was something dumb, an 18-year-old kid, and
Yeah, of course. Well,
I was yeah, just yeah, they put me on try. I had to clean all the trash out of all the dorms every morning for a week, and I
yeah.
couldn't work out with the team. It was so dumb of me, but it was one of those
Yeah.
things that you remember.
Yeah. And hey, you know what? You did your time, man. You paid your
Yeah.
dues. You did your time. All right.
Yeah, it wasn't anything malice. It wasn't
I
anything
know.
it's a food fight.
That's
And
funny.
and
Yeah.
and like we left covered in food and like,
Hmm.
joking around with each other. It wasn't like we were mad at each other or anything. It's just one of those things, you get into it with your teammates and you pick at them and whatnot, and one thing leads to another.
Last question about that because everyone like, I mean, who doesn't fantasize at some point about like being in a giant food fight? You see it on TV, you see it in shows, and you're like, man, that would be awesome. God, I want to be in a food fight. Is it as cool as it is like, or as it sounds like on TV, or
It
as
was
you
pretty
see it?
fun in the
It
moment,
was pretty cool.
honestly.
Okay.
Afterwards, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm such an idiot. I'm like, I'm a
Yeah.
mess. I gotta clean up this place.
Hmm.
I'm like get kicked. I was like, I'm gonna get kicked out of school. I'm gonna get kicked off the team. Like totally wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was fun.
Yeah. Just for the record, we're not
Not
condoning,
condoning it. Yeah, yeah.
you
No.
know, going in and starting a food fight at your campus, but
I was
fun,
immature.
fun story. Yeah, fun story. And then lastly here, I kind of want to touch on how you got into coaching. You kind of said you always wanted to, and it kind of evolved from junior high to high school to college. Like, how did you get your first kind of job? Because what were you going to school for? You said, were you an English education major?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did you wind up even coaching in the first place?
Yeah. So, well, I always wanted to coach, right? And
Yeah.
so, when I went to school, it was like I want to be a high school coach. Now, when I was in college, I was like, well, I'm gonna still do that as a fallback, but I would like to be a college coach,
Yeah.
and wasn't sure what that was gonna look like, and had actually talked with my coach at Lincoln about going back there, and like
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was gonna look like initially, um, but so I did 2 years at Lincoln, 2 years at Bloomsburg, and my first year at Bloomsburg, I wrestled in the first competition and then tried to do a medical red shirt. And so after my second year, uh, the head coach John Stutzman sat me down and was kind of like, if you don't get the medical red shirt, we're gonna put you on staff for this season. Like you'll be a volunteer assistant, whatever. And in my head, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm definitely getting it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then he's like, just, if you don't, whatever,
Hmm.
we have a plan. Like, we want you to stay here, whatever, and, finish out your degree, your master's degree here and, help out. And, and so yeah, we, get through the last day of preseason, my 5th year. And on the last day of preseason, the compliance lady says, hey, you didn't get your medical red shirt, so you
Wow.
can't wrestle. And,
How
so,
devastating was that, real quick? Like, I mean, it sounds like you all along, you're like, well, of course I'm going to get it. How devastating was that to not get it?
I mean, I guess I knew that it was possible, but that wasn't a thought in my mind.
Right.
Like
Right.
I didn't think that was realistic, and so I was devastated.
For sure.
Yeah, that was probably my biggest, devastation of wrestling because I was like, this is my last year. Like this is everything I've trained for is into this, and I felt like I had my best ever off season, my best ever preseason, all those kind of things,
Gosh. Yeah.
and it just, it hurt. And it was basically like, it took me a couple days or maybe a day or two, but it
Mhm.
was like, look, I'm gonna focus on coaching right now, and then I'm gonna wrestle in the U.S. Open in the spring or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like at that point in time in my mind, I was gonna go do it at the U.S. Open, and internationally, whatever. And
Yeah.
so um, but reality is I started coaching and never went back competing. Fell in love with coaching. It was awesome, and so got my foot in the door that way, and then it's gone from there.
Yeah. And
But
so,
yeah, it's kind of out of devastation of like, and I was just like, well, whatever energy as I put into my season, I'm gonna put into these guys, and just kind of fell headfirst into it and jumped in 2 feet in.
yeah. And you got to appreciate Coach Stutzman there, kind of having that plan already in place if this happens, because if you didn't have a plan, like, things could have went sideways in a hurry, but to have a little bit of a support there that like, hey, this could be a possibility. We have a plan, so like we'll keep moving no matter what happens. To have that support to keep the train moving.
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
And I forget exactly the timeline, but I was starting on my master's at some point. I want to say trying to think here. I think I had one more semester of undergrad. I was student teaching that fall. And so that was my last semester of undergraduate. So when that happened, I'm finishing out my undergraduate degree and I'm like, do I go take a coaching job somewhere and actually get paid some money? Or do I stay here, as a volunteer and try to find a job that I can work? Or do I get my master's and take out some loans to be able to coach so that I can coach down the line? Or what's that gonna look like? And so kind of a, interesting side note of how I ended up getting there is, I tell our guys I made hundreds of dollars a year as a coach, and and legitimately like a few $100s to coach. And so, at that point it was like, all right, I got to figure out how to make ends meet. Right. Like,
right.
And so I started doing, I was already doing some, but I started like really hustling camps and clinics and stuff. And so I would take whatever anybody would pay me. But, and I even got to the point where I'd go do free camps and clinics anywhere I could if they would promise me to promote the gear, and I would sell gear. And I had this place that made super cheap Bloomsburg wrestling stuff. And so I basically kind of was getting by with hustling gear and just selling gear. So I'd do a camp or a clinic so I could get the kids to like me so I could sell them gear. And, it sounds bad, but like that was how I made ends meet for a little bit. And then, so as that's going on, I'm in my last semester. I kind of sat down with the head of the dean of the education department, Dr. Gates. Awesome guy. I had him, undergraduate. I kind of made a friendship with him, whatever. Kind of told him what was going on and was like, I'd really like to get my master's and coach here and blah, blah, blah. One thing leads to another. And he offered me a grad assistantship. So it would pay my tuition. I'd still pay my fees or pay part of my tuition, most of my tuition. I'd pay the fees, I'd pay housing, whatever. And basically we worked it out to the point where he was like, look, your grad assistantship is through the education department. All your hours are through wrestling. I'm going to be checking up with Stutzman. And, if you aren't doing it, then you're going to lose it. But basically, I'm going to pay you to coach. I'm going to allow you a grad assistantship where you're going to be a wrestling coach. And so I kind of hustled my way into a GA position in education, but did all my hours through wrestling and just, focused on coaching, which was really cool and awesome that he let me do that. And he ended up hiring my best friend, I think a year later, for an education grad assistantship as well. That he actually did his hours in education, but that got me through, coaching. So it helped cover some of my costs, and then I made a few $100s and worked a ton of camps and clinics and sold gear, and I got through. Not joking, I took out loans to be able to coach for 2 years at Bloomsburg so I could become a college coach, and that's kind of how I got started.
Wow.
But there's a lot of hustle behind it. There's a hustle to get
a
GA job in a department that didn't have me do any hours with them, and there's a hustle to do camps and clinics and sell gear. And then it was like, and then I landed a full-time job.
Yeah. What was that like? Was that like, I can't imagine. You finally got a full-time job coaching. Was that just like a monkey off your back, weight off your shoulders, whatever metaphor you want to use?
Well, my grad assistantship was ending, right? And so I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like,
exactly.
Do I work a part-time job? I was like, can I get a part-time job working shift hours so that I can be at practice in the office every day? Like, is that what I do? And so like in my head, that's what I had to do. And but it was ending, and so a job came open at Buffalo, and Stutz recommended me, and one thing led to another. And I ended up getting the position there, and I was head assistant, and it was for 30 grand. And I remember being like, I'm freaking rich. I'm making 30 grand a year. I am wealthy. I am
Yeah.
loaded. I'm living the life. And now I say that and people are like, how'd you get by? But yeah, it wasn't that long ago. But I remember thinking, man, I'm rich. I'm
Yeah.
buying a house. Like that's what you do.
Yeah.
Like you get a job, you buy a house, right?
Yeah.
So I bought this crappy duplex, like a stone's throw away from train tracks, like and I was like, man, I'm living the best life. I'm loaded.
Mhm.
It's great.
Wow. I love this story though. I mean, just the passion, like almost the just doing anything possible to stay involved in wrestling and doing what you had to do. And I mean, I'm sure there were some tough moments, but like from the sounds of it, I mean, you were just happy all the time. Like, "God, I can't believe I can do that. I'm wrestling. I'm coaching,
Yeah,
$100 or whatever. Like, this is great."
yeah, yeah,
But from that 30,000 view you were talking about, I mean, some people might be like, man, his life must be rough. He never has any money. He's taking out loans. Like from the outside, it looked like a rough life, but you were just having the time of your life because
yeah.
you were in wrestling. That's
I
awesome.
don't know if my family understood it. I think they really questioned
Bro,
some
no,
things, some
no,
decisions
no.
I was making. But yeah, I was like, this is what I want to do, and it's just like when I was in high school, it's like, hey, I'm gonna find a way to go train and compete, like whatever, like
Yeah,
I'll figure it out, and that's kind of how coaching started for me. It's like, well, you know, I got a position here,
yeah,
volunteer. I'm gonna figure out how to make things, work to live
yeah,
here and do this because, this is what I want to do. And whatever I have to do to make that happen, I'll do. And, it all worked out. And, I'm very fortunate where I'm at now. But yeah, I mean, there were certainly some tough moments with it, but I never questioned not doing it. In
yeah,
my head, it was always like, well, I'm just gonna figure it out. I'm gonna do it.
yeah.
Like, if I need to be a trash man, I'll go be a trash man in the morning so I can freaking be at practice and coach in the afternoons. I can
Hmm.
recruit at night or whatever. Like, I'll do whatever that takes. I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah.
And in my
And
head, there was never a moment where I was like, it's not gonna work out.
yeah,
Like, I guess I just had blind faith in myself of like being able to figure it out.
yeah. And sometimes that's a powerful weapon. It sounds kind of silly to have blind faith and that can get you in trouble, but like if you are really passionate and really like hustling and trying and putting all your effort and energy, like I mean, it's almost impossible to make it seem like it's not going to work out,
Yeah,
you know? And
I didn't
so I
realize that was a thing.
yeah, right. I mean, also the other thing I'll say is that I can also see that as being really relatable to your guys, that like you had to put in a lot more time than other people. You had to put in a lot more energy. You had to do the extra. You almost had to do the extra, 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 you
Mhm.
know. And you are proof that it pays off doing the extra. So like, if they ever question or if they're wondering or they're defeated or whatever by the season or a loss, it's like, hey man, stay the course, just keep trusting the process, do the extra. Like I've been there.
Yeah,
You've been there.
yeah,
So relatability, I know for me, that's a big deal for me. As a person, when I have a boss or an athlete, or a coach or whatever. So just hearing that piece, I think, can be a pretty powerful tool in your toolbox.
yeah.
Maybe.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah, I think I can use that. Yeah, I mean,
A little bit.
the guys always laugh at me. I'm like, yeah, I took out loans to be able to coach and made hundreds of dollars. Yeah,
Yeah. Um, Couple things here real quick before I let you go. One is so you found your way to George Mason. Along the way had some great mentors, met some great people, Pat Popolizio and NC State, one of them, Stutzman, um, at Bloomsburg and recommended you at Buffalo. But George Mason here, I want to just kind of shine a little more light on George Mason because of how important programs like yours are. How can people support George Mason Wrestling? If you want to, can we go and buy gear? Is there a donation page? Like, how can people in the wrestling community support your program?
yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of ways to support, right? And it's not
Okay.
always just money. Obviously money
Correct.
is great,
Yep.
but
Right.
showing up to things, come to matches, things like that, showing support. We do a lot of fundraising, and we've been very successful at that. And it's not always about the number of the final number of dollars raised. It's also, I think it's really important to show your value by the number of people who donate. Even
Mhm.
if you get 500 people that give $10, it might not be a ton of money, but it shows that a lot of people care. And so I think both those kind of things go a long way. It's not just somebody needs to give $1 million or $100,000 or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
showing administration and people that value our program. And I think that's one area we've done really well with is showing in numbers people that value our program.
Yeah.
But yeah, from fundraising for the school, fundraising with our RTC, the Patriot Elite Wrestling Club, help support us and do things as well. And we do a lot of events. We do a casino night in the spring,
Ooh.
summer, which
Cool.
is a lot of fun. This fall, we're releasing a Be Uncommon bourbon through our Patriot Elite Wrestling Club.
A
So we'll be
bourbon.
doing, Be Uncommon bourbon. So we will be doing we can't sell bourbon in Virginia. So we're not selling bottles of bourbon, but we are selling a tasting experience at Jack Rose Saloon in DC, which is got the largest collection of bourbon in the Western Hemisphere with over 2,700 bottles. So we'll be doing a tasting there, and with that tasting comes a bottle of Be Uncommon bourbon. So
Ooh.
that's kind of our workaround. But yeah, so we're releasing a Be Uncommon bourbon in the fall is a fundraiser for our Patriot Elite Wrestling Club. And it looks like, and then we have our Hall of Fame, our George Mason Wrestling Hall of Fame. So we created a few years back a Hall of
Yes.
Fame specifically for wrestling at George Mason. There isn't an athletics Hall of Fame, so we created our own, and we've been very fortunate. We had two induction classes so far, and we will hopefully soon be releasing the names of the third induction class, which is I
Heck
want to
yeah.
say October 25th, Saturday, October 25th here on campus. But we'll be releasing that in the coming weeks. And so that's a pretty cool event where we do a dinner and drinks and presentation. And in the last 2 years, we've had 300 plus people at the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
It's been an awesome event celebrating our history. And I think that's something that I realize is we don't in wrestling celebrate our history enough. We
Hmm.
don't celebrate those that came before us enough. And it's all, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
Who's an All-American this year? Who's placing this year? Who's winning right now? And I think that's been really important for us to celebrate our history and drawing people back in that maybe are disconnected or not as involved as they used to be. And I think that's helped really get our network of people improved and increased of recognizing some of the people who made all this possible for us.
Hmm. Yeah, and I'll extend that and say like I think it's especially important for people or programs like George Mason where, man, I mean, raise your hand if you knew George Mason wrestling has been around for 50 years. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
people might not realize that. But obviously they know like Penn State and Iowa and like those programs have been, but these other programs that are a little less known, I mean, they've still been around for a long time and have had a great history. Maybe not as massive of a history as those other ones, but like University of Ohio or sorry, Ohio University. Um, they've been around for a long time, and
yeah.
they have some great wrestlers, but you don't know much about the program. So it's nice to have that history um, reflected and just praised, like so people can realize like, oh, this program's been around. They've done some things here,
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
So
And if
um,
you don't recognize where you've come from, how do you get to that next step of where you're gonna go?
bingo, bingo, yeah. The last thing I wanted to mention to you here real quick is you were just inducted in December into the Centralia Sports Hall of Fame. Um, that'd be pretty cool moment. When did you find out you were getting inducted into that?
Uh, so yeah, so my wife's giving me a hard time about it because they've been
What?
hitting me up for a long time. They're like, "Hey, we need your basically your accomplishments resume and stuff." And I've been putting it off for 15 years or something.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I guess I kind of shied away from the recognition or whatever of it, but yeah, I mean, it's good and bad, I guess, that I did that. It's kind of like I got more I need to accomplish. I'm not old enough going to Hall of Fame. I need to,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
And so I kind of shied away from it. Part of me, wishes I would have done it earlier so that my parents were around to see it, because that would have meant a lot to them. But
Mhm.
I'm also really happy that I waited, because both my kids were able to go, and it's something
Yeah.
they'll remember. And so it was a pretty cool thing for us, and um, great to get our family together. And I was overwhelmed by the amount of people from my extended family that was able to come and support, that I didn't even know was going to come until I got there.
Mhm.
And so that was pretty cool. But honored to be recognized, and happy to be recognized. But honestly, I mean, my whole speech was about, it's not because of me, it's because of my coaches, the people who made it possible for me to
Mhm.
get there. My parents, my sister for taking me in, my, whatever, all those coaches I talked about earlier, that like,
Yeah.
to no benefit to them, provided me these opportunities. They're just insane, and crazy that they did so much for me. And so, it's a credit to all of them, much more than, anything I did.
Yeah. I mean, can you at least, for a split second here, you at least pat yourself on the back a little bit and be like, wow, like, okay, okay, Frank, you've done well. You've done good.
It
That
was
doesn't
cool.
mean
It
you,
was cool.
yeah, that doesn't mean you're going to not continue to accomplish some great things, but like so far to this point, like, hey, you've done well.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I've been very fortunate. I have a lot of good people around me. I'll say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Um, what's it like? Last question for you. What's it like to sit here and when you give that speech and when you just talk to me for the last hour and 40 minutes now, and you talk about your whole wrestling story, like, what do you think of it? I mean, it's kind of a wild ride, a fun, wild
Yeah,
ride,
yeah,
naive ride. Like
yeah.
I mean, well, how would you describe it?
I'd say it's uncommon. Be uncommon is our mantra. How's that?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's different, right?
Yeah.
I would say if you look at the, however many 80 Division I head coaches, I'm probably unlike the standard, Division I head coach that was a national champ or an All-American or whatever, and
Yeah.
very different background and trajectory from a lot of them. And so I think it's unique, and hopefully it's a positive story of somebody that was not at all talented in any way, that just worked hard and was willing to put the effort and time and energy in, and loves the sport and wants to give back to it for all it did for me.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Special thanks to my guest, head coach Frank Beasley, for taking the time to sit down and chat with me. Cover art created and designed by Kristen Gill. Please feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe to this podcast. And also check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and my Facebook page to hear more of my content. And don't forget to check out my website at letstalkwrestlingpodcast.my.canva.site. And as always, be sure to tune in to hear the next guest of the Let's Talk Wrestling podcast. Take care. See you next time.